Hello, everyone. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the show where we go over the latest in Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, fantasy, sci-fi, genre news, and editorial commentary. I am Dan Selcke, editor of winterscoming.net, and I am here with...
Mia Johnson, hello. I'm back. Editor at fansided.com, Fanside Entertainment.
Yeah, Mia, you helped us out with your San Diego Comic-Con visit a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And if you're a longtime watcher of the show, you know that Cheryl Wassenaar, dear beloved Cheryl Wassenaar, moved on last week to bigger and better things. And Mia has graciously accepted my begging plea to
You
come
didn't
and
have to beg.
co-host the
That's
show.
the thing. I was like, I would gladly do this. You have some great fans.
Oh, thank you
and
so
I'm
much.
like, I'm all for it.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm excited. I think this could be a lot of fun.
Yay!
And thanks everybody who's watching. Is anybody watching
Yes.
there, Mia?
Let's say hello to Julie. Thank you, Julie,
Hey,
Christy,
Julie.
Kathleen, Renee, and Teray. I hope I'm saying everyone's names right. I'm getting used to you all.
Yeah,
So.
get used to it. Anyway, let's just dive right into it. There's a lot going on. It's been a frantic day. I will say that at the top of the hour, Josh Hale is again out for Song of Dan and Josh. At least he told me ahead of time this time. Were you here? Oh my God! Last week, we
All
were
I
doing
saw
the
was
show,
the message. It was like paging Josh Hill. I was like, what's going on? Where is he?
and Josh just didn't show up.
Wow.
He was like in a meeting.
Wow.
But yeah, boo. But this time he's hiring somebody or something for something.
Yeah.
He will be back next week, or I'll just do it myself. He's not. But okay. I want to start. This kind of happened at the end of the last show, last Wednesday. I think the big news out of this past week was David Benioff and Dan Weiss, the showrunners of Game of Thrones, the most beloved and reviled people kind of working in Hollywood today.
Only
almost.
the best.
You can't. It's like it's one or the other. Man, they had quite the year in terms of perception.
Yeah.
They've been looking for a while at like their next move, because it's so weird to be them right now because they have so much clout. They made, whatever you think about it, Game of Thrones was the most successful series, like in the past, like what, 25 years at least. At the same time, they suffered through like a Last Jedi size, maybe even bigger fan backlash.
Yeah.
So the question was, what now?
Yeah. They're not in a good place, and I think they
Well,
need something to. They personally are in a good place. They're gonna make cash, but they still need to win over the fans, I think, or at least a majority of the fans who are hurt by Game of Thrones. And so, whatever they're gonna do in the future, I think they really gotta earn it.
and the question is, what will they do? And what they're going to do, at least for the now, they have signed and I will say that I've got like different numbers on this, depending on where I looked, but I think a $200 million deal
Oh wow.
they signed with Netflix. We were wondering if they were going to go to Disney, if they were going to go to Warner Media, which owns HBO.
Yeah.
I guess I thought like either of those would make a little more sense because, I mean, they worked at HBO. So you
Exactly.
figure Warner Media could make a deal with them. And
Yeah.
then Disney, they're making Star Wars movies. So like, why not go with Disney? But they went with Netflix. I think it's like the least expected pick of that.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. I would kind of expect them to be on like the Warner Media, what it's called, like HBO Max.
Yes,
this
that
streaming
is going to be
service.
the new system,
Yeah.
HBO Max.
Like I could have seen that. The
Very
only
tubular.
thing like I could think of is it being like a bidding war, like them like being like, we're only gonna go to the people who pay us the most. And maybe, Disney's like, I'm not all here. HBO or Warner's like, I'm not all here. So Netflix was like, just take our money.
Here's the thing, though. It's interesting. So J.J. Abrams signed a deal with Warner Media for $500 million.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous, by the way. That's something that we could talk about. Like,
Yeah.
are these deals getting too big? Like, how much are these folk worth, really, in terms of this?
I mean,
Is J.J. Abrams really worth $500 million? I don't know.
that's a great question because it's like Star Wars and Star Trek versus like Game of Thrones.
But, of course, it won't be Game of Thrones.
Right. Well, like, what they're bringing to the table,
Yeah.
what they've had previously. I don't know, 500. Well, what did you say for JJ?
J.J. Abrams got a $500 million deal with Warner Media.
With Warner Media. That.
And then Benioff and Weiss got a $200 million deal, which is huge
Yeah,
by any
yeah.
imagination, but apparently it's like dwarfed
It's like-
by other deals
yeah.
in Hollywood. That's
Like,
the
those
kind of
are
money
just
that's thrown around.
Pennies, 200 million, get out of here. No, that to me, yeah, that's a sizable amount. it's kind of hard to like comprehend or like
Yeah,
to imagine
exactly,
that
yeah.
scale to begin with. But I mean that kind of just shows you their faith in that they're like, okay, J.J. Abrams or D&D, they're really gonna make some magic
Sure.
happen.
Or that like JJ just knows people, or I guess I mean he has been
Yeah.
like entrenched in Hollywood for
Yeah.
longer than they have, and spread himself around. Here's what Benioff and Weiss said. This is their statement, which is, by the way, their first statement of any kind since the end of Game of Thrones. Really,
Oh, welcome back then.
I mean, it's notable that they've. I mean, I don't want to visit anybody's intention because I don't know them.
Yeah.
And I get a little annoyed when people on Twitter are like, well, they're clearly like hating the fans. Like, they've said nothing. I don't know where you're getting this. I got into a tiny little Twitter tiff with a noted journalist
Yikes.
who I respect very much, but was kind of, she tweeted something about like, I hope Benioff and Weiss can, stop being like hostile toward the fans. And I'm thinking,
Oh.
like, they've said absolutely nothing since everything. I feel there's definitely some projection going on
Maybe.
in this backlash
yeah, that
world.
person was just hurt. They need to express that in a different way. Like,
I mean, again, that person, it was Joanna Robinson of Vanity Fair, who's terrific, by the way,
Yeah.
who's excellent.
yeah.
But I mean, like, I do see that sentiment, like people just reading stuff into it, and it makes me a little uncomfortable. But anyway,
Yeah, what did they say?
here's their statement. Their statement is, we've had a beautiful run with HBO for more than a decade, and we're grateful to everyone there for always making us feel at home. Over the past few months, we've spent many hours talking to Cindy Holland and Peter Friedlander, Netflix people, as well as Ted Sarandos and Scott Stuber. Great, I'm glad we know their names. We remember the same shots from the same 80s movies. We love the same books. We're excited about the same storytelling possibilities. Netflix has built something astounding and unprecedented, and we're honored they invited us to join them. It's okay. I mean, pretty standard. It's not like it tells us anything.
Yeah. To me, it's just a standard. And of course, I don't think there might not be a time, or at least in the near future, where they do like seriously address the whole season 8 backlash. I think they're just gonna carry on and kind of act like nothing happened. And I mean,
It's definitely an option.
I feel like that's the best damage control. Is just to like move on and don't even like. In a way, to me, it sounds kind of bad to be like, oh, that never happened. But it also seems like it would hurt them as well, too. I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, I think.
It really is.
Yeah.
Like, I've come back and forth on it.
Yeah.
I've been like, I mean, yes, you could meet it head on, but I mean, like, what if you heard about them going to Comic-Con and then canceling, right?
Right, yeah.
They're going to appear that. I mean, what if, I mean, like, they know themselves better than anybody. What if, like, if we address it, we're just going to look defensive and get angry? Because, I mean, when you pour your heart and soul into something and people just react so badly to it,
Yeah.
obviously it's going to mess you
Yeah.
up. But again, this is me, like, imagining what they feel. I don't know. Nobody does.
Yeah. You know what this is reminding me of? I'm a huge
that?
Sherlock fan. Like,
Okay.
like by
I think I know where
far.
you're going.
Season 3, I'll start with season 3 because season 4 is a whole nother mess by itself. But season 3 specifically, everyone was awaiting what would happen to Sherlock. Like, how did he survive the Reichenbach fall?
Remember that.
And it just sort of like, the writers just sort of like brushed over, like, oh, you don't need to know. I know you spent like 2 years coming up with your fan theories and stuff, but the response was like, whatever we would have done would not have matched what you wanted.
Okay.
But I think fans kind of took that as a like, more of like a you suck as fans, so just shut up and let us do our jobs. And it kind of hurt people. So it's like, I think it also moves into that balance of like, what do we want versus what do we get? Season 8 again was not some good gettings. But
Folk had opinions.
yeah, but yeah, it's just that kind of thing where it's like, if you are a creator in this space, I don't think there's a right answer as to what your response should be to the fans.
I agree with
Yeah.
you. I think there are pros and cons either way, and I mean, I think we're kind of coming of age in this space where the fan reaction is that immediate, and it's a whole new ballgame. It's not like you can just respond through press releases and appearances like you could. Like, people want you to be talking on social media. They want you to be talking immediately.
Yeah.
It's a whole new ecosystem, and no one really quite knows how to navigate it.
Yeah.
And I think Benioff and Weiss are finding their way like everybody else is.
Yeah.
And I think we as fans can do our best to approach it with rationality and some empathy occasionally. And I mean, if you're angry, say you're angry. That's fine too. But yeah.
Why don't we just have a peace convention where we just meet and both sides acknowledge, like meet me here and we'll break bread and we'll make a better season.
But anyway,
if only, yeah.
So I guess my question about this is, so it seems like their play to move into like the realms occupied by a J.J. Abrams or a Ryan Murphy or a Shonda Rhimes, like a big mega producer.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say that they're not going to do like a Game of Thrones thing again, where they're like just in it 24/7.
Okay.
You know, because like for them, Game of Thrones like just was their job. Like they weren't Ryan Murphy or Shonda Rhimes who have like 8 shows on TV at once. They had like this show. But if they're doing Star Wars movies and they have a Netflix deal to develop, you know, shows and movies,
right?
My guess is that they're going to be a little more producery.
Yeah, I don't imagine that they could have, you know, their hands in like so many pots and be so deep into it as much as, I guess, the way you're saying with Game of Thrones. And so then I think at that level, whatever comes out of this, they're just kind of like there to like push it forward and give it the okay. But at that rate, it just might be up to like writers or directors or whoever that really set the tone for the story. So if it's a bad season, it might not even be their fault of like whatever show it is. Like, hey, don't blame us.
I mean, because I was thinking like about Ryan Murphy, who has like American Horror Story, American Crime Story, Pose, something called 911. Never heard of the Politician. Like all these shows on here. He can't possibly like be every day on them.
No,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. You need some point people to go and do your bidding for you.
So my guess is that they want to do that now.
That's probably that's how I imagine things would be going. So
this
good
means, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure maybe after having your elbow deep in something for like 8 years, you want to try something else, a little bit different role. This probably means that their show Confederate is dead over at HBO. Which, I mean, like, what an interesting story that was.
That was, and I'm glad that got shut down. I'm like, that's all I need to say about that.
I mean, it's interesting because, like, I feel like we've known it's dead for a long time, but they never came out and said it. They acted like it might still happen, which we all know. Like, who are you kidding? No, it's not.
Yeah, that's not. There's no grounds for a show like that. In this day and age, it's like, please don't do this to me. I can't.
Yeah, and after the backlash, like no one ever taled about it.
Yeah,
and
it just be bad overall for everybody.
It just surprised me that they wouldn't just admit like, nah, it's gone. But like I said, it was one. I think they just want everybody to forget it ever existed.
Come on.
We'll never have that. What do you think about them working on Star Wars movies? We don't know what they're doing exactly yet. The rumor is going to be an Old Republic thing. Are you a Star Wars person?
Oh,
Cheryl's a huge Star Wars person.
Yeah, of course. I'm in Cheryl's shadow. I think she's like here. I'm still like here. So I'm good with Star Wars. These were movies?
Okay, we don't know everything yet.
Right.
As close as we can tell, the best hot rumor is that Benioff and Weiss are doing a trilogy of movies.
Okay, right.
And again, this is just rumor, but it's, you know, like rumors tend to like gather steam sometimes, and like you say, okay, I think we can all accept what's happening. Okay. About the Old Republic, like the way back, like thousands of years before.
You know, okay, here's the thing. I think that obviously for seasons 1 through 7, and there may have been like some slow patches. Like Game of Thrones is generally good. Everybody loves it. Sure. And they helped it to become the phenomenon that it was.
I think there was great stuff in season 8 too, but
absolutely. And I think that Star Wars, and this is just my like theory, is that Star Wars rushed the end of season 8, and so I think that basically, if they have the time to tell the stories that they want to tell in Star Wars, I kind of trust them. Like if you told me last year that they were doing Star Wars, I would probably be like, that's fantastic. But like honestly, I think that the storytelling was rushed in season 8, and that's why it became a train wreck. So I will say that I trust them to move ahead with Star Wars, and I have my fingers crossed.
I think that rushed is kind of the watch word everybody kind of settled on.
Yeah.
Although if you loved it, you loved it, and I did like it a lot. Sometime we can talk about exactly what happened. Maybe I think it's maybe beyond the discussion of this little thing here. But yeah, okay, I'm glad to hear, because Cheryl was not a fan of them doing Star Wars.
Oh, no. Two sides of the coin.
I mean, I'm just curious, like,
Yeah.
you know, to get our new bearings here. I think her objections were that they should have hired somebody. I think she wanted more representation.
Oh,
in
I would
the
be
director's chair.
all for that, yeah.
And I guess it is like Benioff and Weiss, and they still have I hate his name. Ryan Johnson doing a different trilogy.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny that Disney now has like 2 fan backlash hot potato people doing their next Star Wars trilogies?
I just want to appreciate what you just said. Yes, that is. Now that you say it out loud, that is very interesting that they.
Those are the 2 biggest pop culture backlashes of
Yeah.
the past 5 years. Are The Last Jedi and the final season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And now they're both making Star Wars films for Disney.
Wow, I can't even wrap my head around that, and I don't know. It's been a tough call for Disney, and I think whatever they do with their properties, Star Wars and Marvel and all that, they're gonna make money. So that I think they're cruising. It
Yes.
might just come to a point where people end up saying enough is enough. Like if the new Star Wars movies come out like crap, or whatever happens. But I think for now they're like, honestly, we don't even care. Like that, that would be my motto. I don't care. Just give me the money. I know it's bad. I'm sorry.
I worry about Disney and how huge they're getting.
Don't lose sleep.
And we'll talk about Disney a little later in the program.
Oh, yeah.
For now, is there any other thoughts you have, Benioff and Weiss, or anything, comments about it?
What are our comments saying? Richard says they kind of forgot to put their heart and soul into it. I believe he's talking about season.
Richard had a meme. Richard read Twitter a couple of times. Oh, sorry.
Let's not forget.
Then I retract my sarcasm, Richard.
Ooh, yeah. George R. R. Martin gave us Game of Thrones. They adapted his story, Debbie says, to television. But let's not forget David Benioff sewed Deadpool's mouth shut in X-Men Wolverine Origins. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to say something about that. I think it's very hard to blame folk for development hell in Hollywood. Like, you write a script in Hollywood, and then after, like, 3 years, it goes to, like, 18 rewrites.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you know, this family-friendly Western, it's now a chamber drama in space, and it's a lot of blood. Like, that happens. Like, I find it hard to blame him that much. I think you can, if you want to blame something, you can go to Game of Thrones Season 8. That's, like, a much closer. He had power on that. Hollywood's weird, man.
It is. So we got to pass around the blame. Everybody gets equal share.
I would give him a pass for the Deadpool
For
mouth
the
stuff thing.
Deadpool.
I think
Okay.
that Season 8, it's harder because he was very much in control.
Yeah.
He also wrote 25th Hour, which is a pretty good Spike Lee movie.
Oh.
You ever seen it?
I have not.
That was good.
I should add that to my list. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, in other news,
Yes.
George R. R. Martin, Song of Ice and Fire author and writer, is currently on a 3-week tour of the UK, not the UK, the British Isles. I called it the UK, and somebody pointed out that, like, he's an island, it's not part of the UK. I'm like, I'm sorry, the British Isles. Okay.
Oops.
Anyway, he's going around to cons, which is a little unusual for him, because I'm sure you're familiar with the finish the books, George, kind of thing. Why don't you writing, which he sticks pretty close to. Whenever he goes out on, like, a little journey, people are always like, does that mean he's done? Is he going to announce something? Not so far. He did announce his writing schedule.
Ooh, okay.
And it goes thusly. The Winds of Winter, the long-awaited 6th book in Song of Ice and Fire franchise.
Long-awaited.
Long-awaited. I mean, it's 8 years now. 2011. 2011, man.
Yeah.
The year Game of Thrones started. That is quite a long time.
It's a long time.
So that's next.
Okay.
And then I think, like, the main point people might have been a little upset about is that he wants to do next Dunk and Egg 4. Are you familiar with the Dunk and Egg novellas?
I am. I brushed up on them. They're Look, I didn't read them all, but I know what they're about.
I haven't read them either. I really want to. It's like something I definitely should do.
But they're like prequel-ish sort of novellas.
Yeah, they're like little short books that are kind of more episodic. They're not like a giant series, and they're just like the adventures of Dunk and Egg, who are a knight and a squire, like 100 years before Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
By all accounts, they're very, very good. I'd like to read them.
I bet, yeah.
But so I think people were a little upset that he isn't doing A Dream of Spring, the last book, right next. He's going to do this little Dunk and Egg novella first. And I would just say to caution, it was supposed to come out, like, this is an old story, in 2013. By all accounts, it's mostly done, and they're very short. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Okay.
And that's really it. And then Duncan Egg 5 after A Dream of Spring, and then Fire and Blood 2.
I'm kind of wishing that George R. R. Martin would do like an Avengers style like Comic-Con where he like has like a big presentation and he's like showing you this is coming next and this is coming next. But he can't do the dates because I'm sure those are unknown to him. So they will remain unknown to us.
That's the thing. What do you think of this? Like, so he's doing this tour around like the British Isles, and he's at TitanCon and WorldCon, which are in Belfast and Dublin, respectively, or the other way around. I forgot. But like we were in an interview with him, and it said at the top, like, I was asked not to ask him questions about The Winds of Winter or Song of Ice and Fire, stuff like that. So my question to you is this: is that appropriate? Like, if you go out and you know that is all anybody wants to know, like, should you even bother doing interviews at all if you're not going to allow questions about the thing that you know people actually want to know?
Yeah, I think that's a big, like, this is reminding me of, like, when the Avengers cast did press for Endgame. Because they would not tell you a single thing about the movie. So it's like, why are you even here? Why are we sitting down right now? What happens to Spider-Man?
I mean, like, not that they don't have other things to say. And, like, he talked about how sci-fi and fantasy have changed over the years, which is an interesting topic. Because he, like, you know, when he was studying this, he said it's like it was kind of, like, considered, you know, a grubby little dirty thing to be interested in, and now it's like mainstream culture. You know, Marvel movies are everywhere. So I mean, it's interesting. And like the interview was good, but it's like, I mean, dude, you have to know what people are interested in talking to you about.
Yeah.
And the interview, oh my god. So the person who wrote it up was like, I was asked not to talk about A Song of Ice and Fire or Wind of Winter, things I wouldn't have been inclined to ask anyway. And I'm like, oh, what a load of bull.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Let's
know
not
you
play
wanna talk about
games
that.
here. You want to know everything.
Okay. So that's that. Any other comments about any of that?
How are people feeling about Julie read Duncan Egg? And
How
she
is it,
says
Julie?
they were okay.
I feel bad for not reading them.
Louis says, when I read the books, it was without the series. The next book is going to be strange as well, as if the characters are all visually realized. Reading it without picturing the series is going to be weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that is going to be strange.
It's kind of like when I caught up with, like, well, Harry Potter, I think, was out as I was reading it. So.
Because you're even younger than Cheryl.
Yeah, by a couple years, but not, or like 8 years. So not by much. So that will be kind of interesting to see once they are published in our good year of 2032. I'm sorry.
I think we'll see The Winds of Winter within the next couple of years.
I
don't know if we'll ever see the last one.
Yikes. So that's a whole nother topic.
We can do a whole show on that. Anyway, and our final topic, you went to a Q&A with the directors of Avengers Endgame?
Yes.
Where was
it? It was, they split the directors up. So Joe Russo landed here in Chicago. What they're doing right now is a We Love You 3000 tour. It's really cute. And it's really all one big thing to promote the DVD that is out as of yesterday. So, so Joe Russo stopped by the Second City in Chicago. It's
Avengers Endgame director Joe Russo.
Avengers Endgame director and Infinity War. Stopped by Second City, Chicago. And I am a student there. I study improv. It was like my night thing.
Oh, sweet.
And so they opened up tickets. And I was like, why wouldn't I go?
Yeah.
So, I wrote 3 articles. One was about, like, talking about how the actors used improv in the movies,
that's pretty cool.
which is kind of interesting, So, like, have you seen Infinity War?
Oh, I saw it.
Okay, yeah. So, like, he was saying one of the scenes where, like, Star-Lord and Thor meet each other, like, that was pretty much improv. Where he calls him, like, the Pirate Angel and stuff like that.
I think that's pretty cool because, I mean, like, those movies are, they're the biggest of big-budget Hollywood blockbusters. To think that there's still going to be a little, freedom to do something.
Yeah, it's like, wow, they have a script, but they, like, if they want to, like, go off the script, they're fine to do that. But they'll make sure that they kind of, like, make a new script with some of the new jokes just so they're not, like, flying off the handle.
That makes sense to me because those movies, I mean, like, obviously they're quadrillions of dollars to make. Yeah. But they do have kind of a looser, like, they're they don't lose their fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that makes sense. That they would be a little
And
loose
so
with their
he described the dream job, which Joe Russo was talking about, Robert Downey Jr., beloved Iron Man Tony Stark, who he says like gets bored when he says a line once, and he's like, okay, new line. So what they do to refine that process is that they go to his house like once a week for lunch.
Okay.
And they look at the script and they come up with like some funny lines and stuff for him to say in advance. And so he has like a little earpiece on set. And when he does a line, he'll ask his assistant on set to feed him an improvised line that they came up with, which is so cute.
Wait, I'm a little behind here.
Yes.
So are you saying that he won't like repeat the same line twice?
I think he does, but I think he likes variety in his acting.
Okay.
So like, for example, Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Doctor Strange, is like British actor with a capital A. Like, he's an actor. And so he studies the script and he's like, sticking to it.
That's what it is, yeah.
But pair him with Robert Downey Jr. and it's like, okay, now we have to be a little bit more flexible and the script has to be a little bit more malleable. So they do kind of hammer it in. They're like, okay, we are going to make sure we stick with like one of these like 3 options or something, I'm assuming. But other than that, it's kind of a free-for-all.
Interesting stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. So
it's so different from like a giant movie like that, because on Game of Thrones, I mean, I guess it's different from TV and movies too. Like, all the actors none of them are that big. Like, none of them are Robert Downey Jr. size.
Yeah.
So I don't think, and from what I heard, it was all very tightly, like you stuck to the script on Game of Thrones. Like, you didn't do much. There was a whole lot of ad-libbing going on.
Yeah, I feel like with that, and like in a way with Marvel, you're adapting from the comics, but I think much more loosely so than maybe Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So there's like, I think what Joe Russo was talking about, he was like, they are staying true to their characters when they improvise, but sometimes it's not maybe true to the story. And I think that's something that, like, if you stick to a script with like Game of Thrones, you want to stay true to that story.
Right. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you gleaned from that event?
What else did I write about? This was a funny one. They were talking about how with Avengers Endgame, there's a little bit of like a message between the movie. If you didn't know, you're watching PBS, not Marvel Entertainment. But he was talking about how he likes to have complex villains in his movies.
Sure.
And Thanos' whole thing was he wants to balance the earth and,
by committing genocide.
Right, by committing genocide, but boom, our resources are better. And so for them, they were like, this is kind of like a lesson in, environmentalism, like how do we use our resources and all that. He was like, if I put this in a superhero movie, you guys are going to like it. If we make it as like a documentary with this message, the message might not come across.
That is a good point. Oh, I don't know whether to be cheered by that or like dispirited.
Yeah, it's like, did you learn
okay, great.
something?
Like,
yeah.
we're out here trying to educate you on climate change or whatever, but we have to get it in a superhero movie to get it.
Yeah.
When Al Gore tried that what was that movie he did? An Inconvenient Truth.
Inconvenient Truth. Yeah.
Everybody got mad.
Yeah. So it's
okay. So his mistake was he should have put that message into Spider-Man 3.
He should have put Spider-Man in his movie. Throw some Venom in there, and then.
All right,
we're all knowledgeable about environmentalism.
It is important to put a little bit of spice in your learning.
I learned in journalism school we called it's like sometimes you can have your candy and your sweets, like your fluff stories. Sometimes you need a little broccoli to keep you healthy. So
I like that.
That was their broccoli. And then he was like, coincidentally, for Captain America: Winter Soldier, which was the second Captain America movie.
Yes. Was that their first one they directed?
It was, that was their first entry. He was talking about how they were exploring, like, what from our own anxieties can build into the villain. They were talking about what about, government controlling and, knowing too much information, all this. And it was like kind of like right around when Snowden happened and that whole big thing. They're like, wow, look at how this coincidentally matches up with, what's going on right now. So, I mean, hey, if you want to be a filmmaker and get a message out, I think the takeaway here is to make a superhero movie. So
you've got to package your message in a way that is appealing, that folks don't even know they're being given a message, and then they'll get it.
They'll walk away and be like, you know what? Why didn't Thanos just make 2 of everything instead of taking half away?
Like, don't be a nerd and make a documentary about something important. Just make a superhero movie and just...
Bill Nye who? Scientists. Okay. But yeah, otherwise, it was a really great...
yeah, it sounds fun.
I mean, just to be in the room with the person who made the #1 movie in all of history
Yes,
is like...
that is...
Wow.
It is. It did get up there.
Yeah, James
Although,
Cameron.
did you know that adjusted for inflation, at least, I'm sure you know this, that in the U.S. at least, Gone with the Wind is still far and away.
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow.
Like, and it's not even kind of close, by the way. It's like, it's way in the lead.
That's hilarious. Because I thought it was still just kind of like a close tie between that and Avatar, but that...
That is U.S. because
Yeah.
I don't think Gone with the Wind was travel.
No,
to Greece or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. That's... Wow.
But yeah, like, not only #1 in the U.S., but like way #1. They have a long time to go to catch up.
All right. I think that's probably why they're doing this DVD tour. They're like, please, we got to beat Gone with the Wind, please.
Gotta beat Gone with the Wind.
Oh, boy.
It's good, Scarlett O'Hara. Okay. Any other comments we got before we wrap it up?
We're going back to George R. R. Martin talking
That's
about
fine.
him writing slowly. Louise says...
He does write slowly.
But maybe the timing Winds of Winter is all linked to a plan George R. R. Martin may have known
Uh-oh.
their own plan in 8 series arcs. Let the series run, and then
doubt
when
it.
people are wanting more and complain about the ending, the more. Send characters different arcs, alternatives that people want. Cunning. Who? His grand plan.
He doesn't have a grand plan.
Okay, well-
For a while, there was this theory that, like, oh, he's waiting until the show is ending. Then he'll release both books at once. No, that was never going to happen.
I think
people.
coming from the mind of a writer and just knowing that procrastination is real, I don't know his excuse. I think that might be it. I just kind of believe that he's going at his own pace.
I got a whole theory about it. We can talk about some other time. Anything else we want to bring up before we wrap it up? Again, Josh Hill is not going to be here this week.
Yeah, so I'm just filling time.
Oh, no, we don't have to fill time, because I'm generally asking.
I would encourage everyone to head over to Fansided, where I have a wonderful interview with Ashley Eckstein. If anybody here is a Star Wars Clone Wars fan, she plays Ahsoka Tano. And she's also the founder of Her Universe. Me and Cheryl are fans of hers because she creates these wonderfully like geeky clothes for men and for women, whoever wants to wear it. So it's a great interview. She is heading to the D23 Expo, which might be something we can talk about.
When is that?
That is August 23rd through
That's
the
coming up.
25th. So yeah, there's some great stuff coming up there. Maybe we can talk about it next week.
Totally. And we've got a winner's coming, and we have an interview with Arnas Fedoravicius from The Last Kingdom.
Whew.
Who is very exciting. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back next week with more Game of Thrones news, Persona Weiss and Fire commentary, more fantasy and sci-fi depth divings, and hopefully a Song of Dan and Josh starring myself and Josh Hill. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.